Chicago's public libraries are buildings filled with books, but they're also living, breathing spaces for connection, creativity, and community empowerment. And this year, Chicago Public Library is being celebrated for reimagining what it means to serve public good. From boosting literacy and digital access to ensuring every Chicagoan has a pathway to knowledge, discovery, and joy. Tonight, we are honored to be joined by Chicago Public Library Commissioner Chris Brown, a leader committed to innovation, equity, and expanding access to every neighborhood, ensuring libraries remain one of the city's most vital institutions. We are also thrilled to welcome poet and educator José Olivarez, the Chicago Public Libraries Foundation newly minted 21st Century Award honoree. Commissioner Brown, José, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Commissioner, I'll start with you. The library has been a part of Chicago's fabric for generations on generations, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about how your vision supports learning, connection, and community in the city.
Well, I think our libraries, they support Chicagoans coming into our buildings with their own vision. And so those visions for themselves change generation after generation, and we want to figure out how do we support them. And that goes all the way back to Chicagoans advocating for branches in their neighborhoods, to kind of deposit libraries, to today. We're really committed to making sure that every Chicagoan has access. And so, you're part of our team. You're very aware that we've hit this milestone where we have launched our 81 Club, and we have a data share with Chicago Public Schools. And so now, for the first time, coming fall, new year, every Chicago Public School student will automatically have their library card through their student ID. So the vision is access, and we're taking it to a place it's never been before.
I love that. I love that. Speaking of access, José, you have spoken about how the library has kind of molded you as you were a young reader. Can you talk a little bit about your experience at the library? Maybe even a moment that encapsulates the time of you being at the library.
Yeah, absolutely. After the event last week, I had a conversation with my brother, Pedro, and he told me that he had forgotten just how important the library was to our family growing up. Obviously it was a place where we were able to borrow books from, and I come from a family where we couldn't afford to buy books oftentimes. So really the library was the only place that we could go to kind of access books. But more than that, it was really a total cultural center for us. We borrowed music, we borrowed CDs, we borrowed movies, we even borrowed computer games back in the days when we used to have like the old desktop computer. So more than anything, it was a place that totally grounded my family's experience and gave us access to cultural activities and cultural materials that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
I love that. I love that. And I want to kind of pivot this question to the both of you. When we think about the library, it's both a public institution and a deeply personal space. And now in this time in Chicago, we talk about the importance of belonging, right? So tell me a little bit about how the library is a place of belonging for you. Chris, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, and I think what José talked about is the way that belonging plays out for Chicagoans every day in our libraries, right? It's those sort of like transitional moments. It's families picking out books for story time in their own household. And they're like, when they are putting their kids to bed, I'm living through that myself right now. And to have that kind of role in their life where they're connecting with stories or connecting with resources, and sort of giving everyone else like a level playing field. So they're all having this rich cultural quality of life, I think is really important. On a more, Chicago-based level, the archives we have, the records that we keep, we're so committed to making sure that we're telling our full Chicago story. So our team has put together this exhibit, Pilsen Days by Akita Suda, and it's incredibly timely as we're looking at immigration in our country and how our undocumented families are being targeted. This Suda exhibit was an exhibit by a Japanese immigrant photographer who came into the neighborhood of Pilsen, a largely Mexican immigrant community, and he really documented that story. And I think it's incredible that our library has now archived that, and we're getting to tell a story of belonging for everyone, immigrants included.
I love that. I'll come back to that in a second too. Jose, I'm going to pivot to you. Tell me a little bit about what the library is in terms of belonging to you.
Yeah, what I'll say is that when I was a young person, I had a difficult time sometimes figuring out exactly where I fit in. My parents were undocumented growing up, and Spanish was my first language, which meant that a lot of times I learned to be quiet because I didn't want to alienate or embarrass myself in front of my classmates. And the places where I was able to find myself, where I was able to learn about who I wanted to become and what I really believed in was really the library. And I think for me, especially in the era that I grew up in, I didn't always get access to stories by Mexican Americans or Latinx people. But I was lucky enough to get access to Black American writers and the stories of the Great Migration, even though they were different than my own story of migration, they also really resonated with me and helped me understand, different parts of my identity. So for me, the library was really the place where I felt like I wasn't judged, where I felt like my story was part of a larger story. And I love what Chris said about, what it means to be Chicago and what is Chicago's story. I think it took a long time for me to understand that Mexican Americans were not just a small part of Chicago's story, but that we played a major role in the development of the city. And I think I really learned that by spending time at the library.
I love that so much.
And I think Jose is saying something really important about, my mom's side of the family is Filipino, right? There's not always a Filipino-American museum or a collection of those stories. And so I think, as Jose is pointing out, oftentimes we look at narratives of diaspora or migration in other cultures that maybe we're not a part of, but it's one of the only places we can see that story.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, Jose, I'm going back to you. Why is it important for public libraries to uplift diverse voices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we live in a moment of time where, with all of the immigration rates that are happening, we're seeing an attempt to shrink the definition of what it means to be an American in this country, of who gets to belong in this country. And so I think uplifting diverse stories is important because I think that's one of the ways that we push back against that narrative and really reinforce our understanding that the United States is a country that belongs to all of us. It's a country that was shaped by all of us and all of our ancestors. And that we want to create a future where all of us are invited to belong and be together.
Yes. And speaking of all of us belonging and being together, Commissioner Brown, the library has been a platform for writers, for artists, for creators all across Chicago, right? From, I would say, like Gwendolyn Brooks now to José Olivarez, like all of these great writers and artists. Tell me a little.
No pressure, Jose.
No pressure at all, I'm sure. Why is it important for libraries to amplify those stories, and how does that align with your mission to connect libraries to people and people to libraries?
Yeah, I think it gets back to some of our foundational values, right? We're so committed to access. We're so committed to our First Amendment rights, to not being a place of censorship. And, what even Jose was mentioning about this kind of erasure of history or this erasure of narratives, that's something that we directly kind of combat by having a breadth of narratives and perspectives. We're incredibly proud of our Vivian Harsh collection on the South Side, where we're working with a $2 million Mellon grant to really digitize and make all of that accessible. This past year, we kind of processed, 400 linear feet, almost a city block of archives. So all of that is now accessible to researchers and Chicagoans that it simply wasn't before. So it's near and dear to our values and our heart.
So tell me a little bit, let's go to the Chicago Public Library Foundation Awards. Recently, we held the awards and José was honored. But for those who don't know about the awards, can you tell me a little bit about it, kind of set the stage for what it is?
I think of it as our library annual rally. Like, we get all of our civic community together, we celebrate our library, the foundation raises funds that really keep us at the forefront. So, thinking of like AI programming, thinking of like teachers in the library, our U-Media spaces, all of that resourcing happens through our foundation. And it's the event where philanthropy comes together to celebrate our library and then celebrate authors like José, and of course, Percival Everett, one of our other winners. It was a magical night.
Absolutely, I agree. I was there, it was amazing. José, you won, I mentioned before, the 21st Century Award. Your speech was absolutely amazing. Congratulations to you. Tell me a little bit about how this feels to win. You're a Chicagoan, you love libraries. How does it feel to win an award like that?
Yeah, it's a dream come true. It means a lot to me because I really believe that Chicago has one of the strongest literary traditions in the country. You think about Carl Sandburg and Gwendolyn Brooks, who you already mentioned. You think about Sandra Cisneros, Erika Sanchez, Eve Ewing, Nate Marshall. The list goes on and on. So to be recognized in that tradition, to be recognized by the library, which played such a pivotal role in my development as a reader and as a writer, I still don't have the words for it. It truly is the pinnacle of my career so far and something that I'll be proud of, as long as I write and as long as I live. So I'm overjoyed still to be able to represent the library and to be honored by the library.
So thank you so much, José. And again, congratulations to you. Commissioner Brown, always thank you for coming. You can watch José receive the 21st Century Award during a special airing of the Chicago Public Library Foundation Awards, Wednesday, November the 5th at 7 p.m. on CAN TV channels 19 and 21, or stream live on cantv.org or the CAN TV Plus app. On the other side of the break, Andy talks about jobs in tech with Exchange Chicago's Draquetta Eggleston and Amawala Cassell. Stay with us.